Daily dose of honest science.
So, hi guys, really nice that you're tuning in to the very first episode of Daily Dose of Honest Science. I'm Dr. Chani Kumar, and I'm a life scientist, I would say, right? So, in the field of more biochemistry, chromatin, and epigenetics somehow.
Maybe a bit of structural work.
Definitely, because I'm so interested in structure, but it's never meant to be.
It's there.
It's there. With AlphaFold. So, just for you guys, what you're tuning in is, so I have a really nice vision that scientists should actually communicate with the wider public, right? So I was thinking if medical professionals can do that, so why we as scientists cannot do it? Of course, there are a lot of people there that are already doing, which is called science communication and education on social media, but still it's scarce, I would say. So, and I realized I really like it. So I was like, why not doing it? So thanks for tuning in. So what can you expect actually from this whole podcast? So I actually want to bring scientific topics and medical topics again together, and want to discuss that with people who are working actually in the research and scientific field. But also what is really important, that we talk about topics that are really crucial in science. Also some which are maybe not so nice, I would say. And that's why for the very first episode, I asked Leona, who's actually a PhD student right now, and a wonderful PhD student, a really, hardworking PhD student. So PhD student for all the people who are not so in science. She is actually pursuing to have a doctorate degree in the end in biochemistry.
That's correct.
So she is in the Beckman lab, so in the Professor Roland Beckman lab, where she's studying ribosomes and the structure of it. So many of you guys will be like, what the heck is actually a ribosome, right? So Leona, please introduce yourself and give us an insight, an insight so everyone can understand it.
A breakdown of
breakdown of everything. Yeah.
I see. So, hi everyone. I'm Leona. Yeah. I started my PhD 2 years ago through a really nice graduate program called Impress. And I have joined Professor Beckman's lab. And so far, so good, I can say. I mean, in the beginning, it was a bit rough, but it's getting better literally day by day. And what brought me here is my love for this super fancy technique called cryo-electron microscopy. So this basically means that we can look through a microscope at literally individual proteins. This is crazy. Like the magnification that you get is beyond imagination.
Yes.
And the fact that you can see molecules in real context, cellular context. So they're not crystallized, they are not worked around or something. They are in their pure natural state. This is amazing.
Yes,
and it actually helps us understand a lot of the mechanisms behind these molecules and actually solve entire pathways and things like that. And one of the things that electron microscopy plays around with is the ribosome. Because, the ribosome is this big molecular machine that makes proteins. So we've known it for a while. We have its structure. We know how it looks. We know how it behaves. But it does shady things from time to time. So normally, ribosomes are happy in the cell and they're producing proteins and everyone is fine. But from time to time, the mRNA that the ribosomes use in order to synthesize proteins can be corrupt, can be faulty, wrong. And this causes ribosomes to slow down in translation.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes they slow down so much that they run into each other and they collide. And then you need all these molecular mechanisms to figure out what's going wrong and why is this bad for the cell. And you need to take care of these collisions or translational stalls. And then you need all these molecular mechanisms to figure out what's going wrong and why is this bad for the cell. And you need to take care of these collisions or translational stalls, so that at the end, your ribosomes are free to produce the proteins that you actually need within the cell.
Yeah.
And
what is an mRNA?
An mRNA. So
is it something that we had as a vaccine?
Yes. Whoa, what a surprise, right? It used to be a hot topic like a year ago. These ribosomes, the molecular machine, make proteins, which are the building blocks of life as we know it. But it's like a machine that would 3D print something, like a screwdriver, let's say. And in order for the printer to get you the screwdriver, you need a set of instructions to give the printer and be like, hey, it has to be this tall, this broad. Can you make it using this material and this material? And this is exactly what the mRNA does in our body. It's this small, tiny strand, kind of a molecule that delivers the instructions from the DNA to the ribosome so that the ribosome knows what's producing.
Yeah, great. Really, really well. Yeah, great. Really, really well explained. So what was like a key event for you? So in my case, just for the audience, I had in the A-levels, like biology and chemistry, I was fascinated by biochemistry and also like structural things. So I'm always all over the place, and I wanted to study later on medicine. But it was not really that meant for me. So I'm too empathic, I would say, to be a good doctor. So I actually studied bioscience and bio and pharmaceutical analysis because I really liked the component of having medical stuff, but also like understanding the biology behind it and also the methods. So I'm specialized actually in mass spectrometry. But I like to apply different methods. And for me, this whole thing was like fascinating for me. So what was your kind of moment where you said, oh, yes, this I want to do?
So for me, it was a bit different. It wasn't more like what brought me into science, more like what kicked me out of everything else other than science. I also started dreaming about medicine, and I studied hard to get into the med school at my home in Romania, and like I was really into it. But at some point, I realized that I don't really want to be a doctor. It's not for me, and it's too serious sometimes. Like there's no room for mistake. You have to be on point all the time. Yeah. And then I was looking for something creative. And I thought that design sounds cool, architecture sounds cool, maybe I could do that. And then I realized that, yeah, that's fun and giggles, but I would like something that has something to do with biology somehow. And because I did not find anything else, I was like, sure, biochemistry. Let's see what this is about. And I really liked the topics that they were having at the university. So I was like, I'm just going to give it a try. And when I got there, I liked the hell out of it. And this was a complete surprise that you can just do biology and it can be really fun and it's not your usual high school topics. And it's new and innovating and you have to be creative and you have to catch on to a lot of stuff very fast and you have to be flexible. You have to be able to talk to people from other fields. I was so into it. Then at the end, I was like, you know what? I could do a master's. And during the master's, I was like, okay, I've been studying a lot of theoretical stuff so far. So I've known this and that, and I've heard these concepts, but I don't know how they really apply in real life. And I feel the PhD for me is definitely that sweet spot in learning where you do a lot and you brainstorm a lot with colleagues and ideas come up just like when you're at the bench doing the hardcore pipetting and things like that. So I really like it. For me, it's a great learning opportunity. And it allows me to be extremely flexible. Yeah. A kind of flexibility that I don't think I would have found in the industry, for example. Not at this point.
No. We come to a really cool topic. So everyone, of course, of you knows the Big Bang Theory, right?
Okay, why are we talking about the Big Bang Theory?
Because it represents us.
Okay.
But I actually want to talk about Amy and Bernadette. So Amy is a neurobiologist, I guess, and Bernadette was a microbiologist. But she is working in industry. She's not working in academia. She transitioned correctly and having more money than Howard, which is kind of accurate.
Yep.
Because this is also something that we face in academia, that we get lower paid, actually, right? Than you would expect in industry. And what I kind of find interesting is the way they actually portrayed us. So like the life scientists, the weirdos that actually cannot kind of communicate. And the day-to-day lab work looks kind of a bit different, I would say. So, of course, I cannot speak for a neurobiologist. Of course, I can only speak from a protein purification standpoint, or you as a structural biologist, actually, from the structural side. But I have some friends who are not doing it as they portray it. So, of course, now we are starting the podcast, we would like to introduce to the people how the scientific life looks like. So how does your daily life look like? So how does a typical day in your life look like?
So I try to wake up as early as I can because I like that in the mornings the lab is emptier and you can do stuff without distractions.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work every morning. But when I manage to get there, I feel like I'm way ahead of this day and I know my game. And there's usually a lot of bench work, a lot. It's like...
It's this funny thing called pipettes, right?
Yes. It's a lot of these funny things called pipettes to transfer liquids from tube A to tube B.
It's just water,
and
right?
it's the same liquid the whole time. It's the same liquid. But
nothing dangerous.
No, I don't really work with dangerous stuff.
Boo.
I mean, you can call liquid nitrogen kind of dangerous. It can burn your skin. So maybe that would be something. But let's say
you operate
I'm
machines
working
also, like they can also be dangerous if they got on fire, right?
Yeah, worse than machines. I'm in charge of servers.
True.
And
true.
They have not been set on fire yet, thankfully. But it's not
I cross my fingers that will never work, never be like that.
But yeah, it's a lot of doing things in a cell. I take them out of the cell and I assemble them as a puzzle, and I see what's happening with them. So I have to purify all these things separately and then put them together. And then when they are together, it's a happy day because then it's a cryo day. And we get to freeze the samples or to collect data. Lots and lots, like gigabytes of, almost terabytes now, of images.
Are you actually scaled up your microscope, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We are working with a pretty cool setup now. And we get so much data, and then processing is like trying to identify the molecule that you want to look at and trying to solve its three-dimensional structure so you can predict how it interacts with other molecules or how it goes through pathways. And that's a very happy day because if you get there when you can look at your stuff and you know that it's the stuff you've been looking for and you have like a nice density and you can build.
So it's a cloud that they are actually looking at. So if you, maybe I can just paste the
picture. It's a potato. 90% of the time it's a potato.
It's a potato, yeah. So, so they make something out of the potato. So
when you can finally make something out of the potato, I think you can graduate and you're good to go.
See,
those are
so
the
easy
days.
It is, right?
Yeah.
No, but
and in between, yes. On a daily basis, there are happy moments when something works, and then you're excited and you're feeling like you can do everything. And let's stay 5 more hours in the lab because now I got the hang of it. and then immediately afterwards something really shitty happens. Like sometimes it's not even your fault. It's just
it's just
the universe cursing you in that moment. But sometimes it is your fault because we're humans as well. We make lots of mistakes and we learn from them. And you have to somehow be able to cope with this constant flux of emotions that varies from 0 to 60 in like immediately.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of like a PhD, because it puts you to work on a lot of aspects in your life. So it's the perfect training ground for being a young professional and being like super serious in what you do, knowing your very well your job and how to do it properly. It teaches you a lot about ethics in general. It also teaches you how to handle yourself and your feelings and your emotions and your ups and downs. So I kind of missed this kind of portrayal in The Big Bang Theory.
Yes,
and
that's
I
true.
think that the way, I mean, both girls were nice characters. And I watched The Big Bang Theory, and I was a huge fan when I was in high school. But when I actually started being a researcher, I was like, oh, wow.
It's completely different.
Those labs are like really finely tuned.
Yes.
And they seem to be having more hobbies rather than work, which is something like, how do they
Where
even
does the
have the
actual work
time?
happens?
Yeah. When do they have the time to hang out and all these things?
True.
And they all are into weird stuff, which is cool and unique about each and every character. But at the end of the day, I don't know, they seem to be investing loads of money into these hobbies, and I'm also wondering, where do you have all that money from? You know, it's not academia. Sometimes is this place where you trade maybe a financial no, you do have financial stability, but you could have a bit more if you would go in the industry, and you trade that extra money for this kind of rush and adrenaline that you get when things work. Like,
if you have the money, if you're in a big lab, yes, like you do. If you're not in a big lab like I was, then you have kind of problems. That is so the things that this is the take-home message for today. We need more money.
We
start a crowdfunding.
No.
I think it's illegal.
We take the money from the journals. How was your life? How was your life? Your PhD
as a PhD
life? Yes.
To be honest, 24/7 working.
So
And,
really,
so
completely opposite to what's happening.
So I will make
Big
an
Bang
extra
Theory.
episode about this, because it's also about mental health and everything. But for now, I'm really happy that you are not in that phase. But what I faced was a very shitty PhD, unfortunately. And so no guidance, no supervisor who's really interested in your stuff. I even had the problem that in the end, I had to lead an entire lab on my own for 1.5 years. I had no technician, boo-hoo, cry, right? But, you know, like, it is a big deal if you suddenly have an empty lab, all your colleagues are gone because they got a new job, they just left, they just, you know, had their defense. And you're there somehow figuring out by the current literature that it is what your protein or whatever does, right? And in my case, it was that bad that I really got mental health problems in the end, and also like physical health stuff. So I'm not the best person to talk about this, because I really gave shit about me. So right now I'm actually trying to be better in that. As a postdoc, I'm trying not to overwork and, you know, saying no to certain things and so on. So one thing I want to mention is that even your boss was really supportive, and the two technicians that are actually working in your lab, so Joanna and Andrea, they are really like helped me a lot. Without them, I don't think I would have made it. Or at least not in that extent. So what I read certain times in any journal like Nature or something, that we have this problem of putting too much pressure on the PhD people and on the postdoc. So I'm right now a postdoc, and I'm actually here to communicate that to the public, to also the scientific community, to be like, guys, you are heard, so speak up and be proud of what you're doing, especially the postdocs, because without them, sometimes you don't get the guidance, right? In my case...
Yeah, oftentimes you don't even get a lab.
Yes.
I mean, postdocs are
they're
literally
the backbone. They're the backbone.
I would call them the right hand of the PI.
Yes, yeah.
So a PI rarely gets to do the actual work.
Yeah. So
it's pretty few cases when
very
they
few
are actually engaged in the lab work.
Yes.
Otherwise, they are doing mostly administrative tasks.
Yes.
So they're the ones in charge of, I don't know, having enough money to support a lab, writing grants, writing papers, presenting the work of the lab, and managing this kind of thing. And then postdocs are the ones actually sometimes building up on the ideas that a PI has, or coming up with their own ideas.
Yeah.
And they are the ones driving the experimental force in the lab, for sure.
Yeah. That makes me to talk to you about another topic, actually, which just blew up recently. If someone... So let's make a very provocative question. Did you ever fake your results?
No. I'm not that cool. I just no.
You're not that cool.
No, I am not that cool.
Unfortunately.
Not that cool as like big Stanford names and big people in this world who do it. I'm just, a small PhD student, happy to be a small PhD student, just minding my own business, as most people should do.
So this is also something that was not covered actually in the Big Bang, how actually research is conducted, right? And that they are, of course, please people don't cancel me, but you have to admit that the 1% that get caught are the ones presenting us in the field, right? And in the media, it will be like, oh, again, a scientist made up his stuff. And right now, just for you that you know that, so there is the Stanford professor, I have to look up his name, so Dr. Mark Tessier-Lavigne, who actually got caught by an 18-year-old who was investigating the allegations against him that he made up some of his work. And I want to call out that, of course, he stepped down, of course, as a president, but you have to imagine that he was Stanford professor, like he was the director of the whole thing. And to hear that is like, what was the rationale behind it to do so? So is it pushing your career to an extent that you can be on that position? And if you're there, can you not stop because you already have your position? So I really want to know what you as you're a fairly young PhD. If you hear such things, what goes through your mind?
So sadly, the first thing that goes through my mind is like, again. Because I feel it's kind of normal, like it's not unexpected. for me as a researcher information, to hear that other researchers lie and submit shitty data to publications is no novelty.
Yeah.
Because I think in science, you're a bit lucky. And the moment you get in, people will tell you never to believe everything you read. And I think you have a lot of programs now as an undergrad to develop your... Also, you could use that, but the really big skill that you need to have as a researcher is critical thinking.
Yeah.
But the thing with critical thinking is that we use it to call out on these things. And this happens on a daily basis in peer review processes. So when we write the paper and we're trying to publish it, people anonymously read the paper and they're like, oh, this is complete bullshit. This is not getting published. Yeah. Or I love it. I think it's relevant. Let's get it out. The fact that no one said anything for this guy for so long is super scary. Because
the problem is he had the power. That's the main problem.
I think this is how he dealt with it at the end. Because if you would have said something against him, a figure in the field already, an authority, you would be the shitty one, not him.
Yeah. So that's why no one really spoke up at that point. So I want to mention here, I watched the great video about this whole scandal by Andrew Stapleton. So he's doing a great job. So I leave the link in the description, please follow him. He's doing a lot of great things about science and academia and industry. Even, I would say calling out other people. Reviewing process is sometimes even also not properly done, because you know someone who knows someone who might be working in that journal, so that you can get it easier published, which is also not okay. So the idea behind publishing is, or having this peer review process, is that independent researchers working in the same field actually give their expertise and be like, that makes sense, or this is completely made up. And of course, bioarchive papers are a whole another world, because they're never peer reviewed, right? But I expect from a peer reviewed paper to be true. That is my main expectation. And if I look into the data and then find it really fishy, then something is wrong. So of course we as a scientist rely on that what is published actually makes sense, right? Otherwise, how will you continue with your research? So in your case, if you're working on ribosomes, it doesn't make sense to make up a claim that your protein or complex you're working on makes magic, right? So
yeah, obviously. And I base everything that I'm doing on the hypotheses that were confirmed
by other labs, right?
Yeah, by previous literature.
Yes, and then if you have this kind of guy who's in neurobiology, the biggest thing, this is something that really scared me, because his work was actually also a ground for Alzheimer research. Okay, so you have to imagine that all this kind of stuff that he found out are retracted now is kind of made up. And
does it really cancel this?
Some of the stuff, yes. So I'm not an expert in Alzheimer, please don't, But as far as I understood, stuff that he actually claimed, other people found out it's kind of shady, but might be working, maybe not in their lab or something like that. That's also something. So it kind
of got externally validated
somehow, but you have to imagine that. Another thing that he pointed out in his great video is you always have this publish or perish, right? So we as a scientist, our currency is publications. Papers, yes. And if you have more, you can... How can we depict it as for someone who is completely outside of the research field?
Pokemon cards. we are Pokemon trainers. And
yeah, the thicker
many,
your deck, the better you are.
Exactly. We're collecting stuff. Each paper is a Pokemon.
Yes.
You gotta catch them all, of course.
Yes, yeah.
And the more you have, the cooler you are as a Pokemon trainer, and you scale up the level. So you cannot be a pro without having a certain number of Pokemons.
Yes, unfortunately, and the Pokemon shouldn't be
no
trashy.
Matter how many
so no
years
magic
of experience you have.
Yes, but the Pokemon should not be 20 times Magikarp. It should be a shiny Pikachu or whatever. You know, like the very rarest
things. A diverse collection.
Yeah, but you know, in the Journal of Nature and Science, you know, ish.
Yeah.
So for the people outside, so we have like top tier journals that we publish in, or at least wish to publish in. It's really difficult to get there because you need to have really novel stories that cover everything and be completely like out of the box, which is hard, I would say. It's not really that easy to get these kind of papers. So you have to be really lucky. And I think for structural biology, it was long time that with some structural stuff, you could get decent papers in Science and Nature. But that changed, I guess, right? So it's not that easy anymore.
I think at the beginning when the method was new,
especially
cryo-electron microscopy, it was like a huge hit. So the fact that you could effectively use it in order to describe structures of molecules, that was such a big hit that it was already impactful on its own. Now this kind of got well established. People know how to do this all over the world. There are labs using this method. And now you really have to show that not only you're capable of using this way of investigating your protein, your complex, whatever, but you can also explain the mechanisms behind.
Yes.
So it involves building a story, having a nice pathway, and obviously having some sort of an impact, like what's the biological application of what you're doing. I think this is a real bottleneck in whatever you do, because sometimes you look into, if you're doing fundamental research,
basic
so
science,
if you're asking questions like, why are my cells growing to a certain size, or things like that, it's not going to be super impactful initially.
No. Even though it's important.
Essential for our general knowledge.
Yes.
So it's kind of hard.
Maybe also for the people, just to explain, so the textbook knowledge that we have is like our ground, and then research is actually on top. So we always find something new, and we cannot really say it's a fact. It's more like it's an observation that we did, and it might lead to further understanding. But research is never... It becomes textbook knowledge after, I think, 10, 15 years or something, if it's proven by other labs as well. But to be very honest, it's really... you're at the forefront, like if you're a marathon runner, that you're at the very, very, very front line, and everyone behind you is more like the known stuff that you, right? So you're always pressing towards the finishing line, which always is gonna drag again.
Yeah.
You know, like you're just there and then... So just for people that they understand, because this was also a kind of problem that people say, well, if research found it must be a fact then in the end. It's not like that. So if you read a paper or something, do you go like, oh, I don't believe it? Or are you like, I give it a try, could be something? How do you observe the literature?
I have this kind of it's like a personal rule.
Yeah.
Like if I read about it in 5 papers by 5 different people, I believe it's like likely to be true.
So though the topic is the same, but 5 different people.
Yeah.
So not
like
the same
not
lab.
the same, not self-referencing, or not the same lab publishing the same thing.
Cool.
People from like I try to find as many as I can. Obviously, oftentimes you cannot, because there's only one paper out there and you're also working on that topic. And this is actually really difficult. And I'm only now grasping what to do in that situation when the information out there is completely opposite to what you have in front of your hands. And you know that what you're doing is ethical and it's okay. And it's just completely different from the science out there. And then this kind of becomes your puzzle. It's you have to put in the detective work and to prove that your way is the right way, or to argue what they did wrong. And it always has to be a diplomatic effort, because I mean, again, we're all human. Sometimes we make mistakes. Taken aside all the drama with people that actually fake results and they publish rubbish, or they even buy already written papers.
Could be, yeah.
Sometimes we also make mistakes, or sometimes we really don't have. We're looking at an object which is shadowed, and we kind of think that this object looks like an elephant, but in reality, when you go closer, it's actually a mouse, but it's enlarged by the shadow. So, and that's fine. This is exactly how science works. And in order to make this kind of textbook material, you really need huge amounts of information and people that validate the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
And actually, this is also one of the reasons why I think validation is extremely important. I mean, going back to the marathon metaphor, it's cool to be the runner-up. You're about to win. You're going to have your cool Nature Cell science paper. But you also need all the people afterwards.
Yes.
Because otherwise, if you're the only one finding that thing,
completely,
it's going to die out.
Yeah.
So it has to be a community effort. It has to be a team effort in some sense.
And that is the main problem, I guess, in science, or in research, in my opinion. So I kind of like the idea of collaborating with different labs to find out really cool stuff. So I'm trying to shift my focus now. So I don't want to do a lot of basic research anymore. I want to have more translational medicine applied. And I see that this is really difficult. So this is also like a big thing that is right now coming up, hopefully soon. So basically with the Big Bang Theory, nothing of that was displayed, to be honest. So I hope you guys watch it anyway, because it's kind of fun to see what they do. But just from a scientific standpoint of how we are, it's not representing, right? So
I think the show is cool. It's geeky for sure.
I always show is appreciated
really cool. The titles that I have for every episode and things like that.
I also watch like medical shows, right? And then you hear a doctor and be like, "Oh, come on, no one is doing it like that," and so on. So I would really love to hear from a doctor standpoint what they think of So anyone who is a doctor, please write down what you think of. I'm watching right now New Amsterdam and The Good Doctor, for instance. So I think they are medically, or Dr. House.
Oh, yeah.
Would that exist?
Such a great show.
I don't know. But I love medical brilliance. I love that. So I really love, and most of the things I get because I like medicine. But I would really love to know what other people has to say, because just yesterday I watched an episode and I'm like, really are you doing it like that? And then it was somehow some weird thing, and I was like, if some doctor would sit next to me, I don't think that he would support that. So the same is for scientists. So if you always see some scientists in any movie or some, it's mostly not...
Take it with a grain of salt.
Take it with a grain of salt. I don't know, there was this new movie, Oppenheimer. This should be fairly accurate. I have not seen it. Did you see it?
You got me. Of course, I did the whole Barbenheimer thing.
Okay,
Like you
great.
go,
I have the best specialist here.
Yes. I like Barbie more. I like Barbie more. I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan, and I totally like his movies, and I really appreciated it. In Hollywood, I think he's one of the few directors who is really interested in the scientific part. So he wants his movies to be a accurate depiction
As possible, yeah.
of the science as we have it. And he did this in Oppenheimer as well, and the science is very on point, and I really liked the way the movie follows this scientific lead. But into this movie, he brings a lot of politics as well.
Ah, okay.
Which is interesting, but it's a bit heavy.
Okay.
So as a researcher, I was there being like, yes, let's like have fun with all the deadly physics.
Yeah.
And then it becomes very political and I don't want to spoil it for everyone. So
no, it's fine.
just,
but
I think it's a good movie in the sense of history of science.
Because I just read the article, not the article, just the heading of the Nature. So I think Nature covered it and be like, what was it? How accurate it is for the scientific community or something like that.
Like even how they assembled their research facility and how the team was researching and all the dialogues they had.
So that was kind of
that was
accurate.
really on point. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So there you have it. They start to portray us correctly.
It really gave me the chills
Really?
while I was watching it, because I was
Cool.
like, wow, okay, this is like, it feels like I'm there when all of these things were being discussed, and like, were they even aware on the impact of their work? Because sucks to be the guy who developed the bomb.
Yeah.
I'm much happier studying ribosomes. There's not a lot of deadly
You
things
don't
I can
you
do.
don't want to have an atom bomb for your ribosome? No.
No, I'm very happy when ribosomes are happy. I want to keep it that way.
So one thing that I had, so are you actually, since you said you wanted to also study medicine, would you like to have a more medical-based approach to things later on? So if you finish now your PhD and be like...
Starting a PhD is really not the easiest thing you can do in your life, especially if you're switching fields,
yes,
which I have. And when everything hits you and you don't know anything, you are learning the theory behind and reading the literature and trying to stay up to date with what people know about this field. And learning this, or learning in this huge unknown, can be very challenging. And if you do not have support, if you do not have someone that tells you from time to time, like, you're too young to be an imposter, you're like obviously not an imposter, you are learning, it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay, it's fine if this thing failed, now you've learned something from it and you can build up on it. And this kind of encouragement is extremely important. And I was really lucky that I had you in my early PhD phase.
Yeah.
I had you as a backup who supported me and who saw that, maybe I am passionate about science and maybe I am interested in doing this. It's just that I need a bit of
guidance,
support in carrying on even in the shitty days.
Yes, true.
So thank you for that.
Oh, I see it as a must-have in a scientist, that he should or she should be helping actually the undergrads to survive, of course, but also like not losing the love for science, I would say. So coming back to my PhD itself, so I had to go through a lot. And the first thing that came into my mind is I don't want that people suffer. So when I have the opportunity to help someone, then I do it. And I do it in such a way that this person can actually work on its own after I trained them. So we had in our lab a certain technique that I passed on now to you. So it's cultivating specific cells for protein expression and so on. And also, like, you know, if you want to express proteins, you also have to clone, which means you have to put the gene that you are looking at that translates later on to the specific protein, you have to put it in a so-called vector. And to express that then and let the cells do their work, it's kind of, you know, you had a challenging time. And I was like, hey, I have a very easy system. In 2 weeks, you can express your protein. You'll be like, you're kidding.
You know, I'm still doing this. Like, I've recently just redone all that. And I started, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it the traditional way. After 1 week of not working, I was like, you know what? Forget it.
Yes.
I'm just doing it the chutney way.
Yes. And it filled me so much with joy and happiness to see after 2 weeks, you were like, I'm ready to express. And I was like, oh my fuck, I did this, really? And then we were talking a lot and knew each other, right? And then it really, you know, I had a lot of joy to help you actually. And I realized, okay, this is something that I really want to do. So sparked the interest and everything. So you also know that I had like 2 little kids in the lab now, and it was really fun. Rumi is watching me. And I also had like someone now sitting behind, also as a master student, also going through that. And I realized if you don't have such a person, it will be really difficult. And I was like, I don't want to be an asshole. I want that people are like, oh, it can be also the easy way. So that is my main driving force, that I say, okay, if I see someone who needs help, I just help them. And in your case, it was really easy. You got it in instant, in no time. And it was so nice to see how you built up the whole freaking insect cell culture. Like, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God. Like, she really stepped up a lot. And I'm so, so happy for you and really proud of you that you took the next step. And this is something that really fills me with joy. Like, that's how it should be, right?
So do you think that this is going to be a thing that you will be focusing a lot in the future?
Mm-hmm. I guess.
Educating, either educating researchers with actual scientific queries in mind, or educating the larger audience and just sending out...
It's a really good question. I have not thought much about it because, you know, I was listening to some of other people and be like, hey, if you want to try out and don't be resentful later on, just try it. You know, like, that's why we're sitting here and having that great conversation. But I guess my mission is that I want to teach, or at least educate the people about science in general, so that they understand what is actually science doing, because we are communicating that too less. Then the scientific community in particular, that they should step up more and educate a bit better. So in my opinion, every PI should have made, or maybe even more, seminars about how to actually be a good group leader and how to guide people, how to be, you know, a leader in general, a good leader, what it makes, right? And then, of course, for me, I will also want to show like the breakthroughs that we have, because there are also sometimes you hear them in the news, you know, like there was something coming up, but you know, there are always kind of breakthroughs, little breakthroughs, I would say, that are worth mentioning and also like portraying what people are doing. So this I want to do. So basically that. if I'm gonna step out completely out of academia, I don't know. For now, I'm doing it. I want to have the experience of a postdoc, and I will also have teaching obligations later on. So I also want to know how it is to teach. But right now, it's a bit difficult for me to say what route I want to go. So for me, I'm all over the place. I would like to do all of them. But I think it would crystallize later on. So what to go, maybe be on my own, be an independent entrepreneur. I don't know. Who never knows? But this kind of little success that I saw in you and all in the others that I had, I want to keep that, because that is something where I really see myself, that I can be there for people who have really hard times. So, and of course, educating the scientific community about, hey, what you're doing is shit. You know, like, get your work done and do it properly, and don't mistreat people, because this is not how it should be. I have seen, so in my case also, if you got a really shitty PI, it can ruin your whole experience for science.
Oh, yeah. It can kill the passion.
It killed, so the guy that I had, he killed the passion of 4 other people. They are all in industry. They don't want to do anything else. And they had all the potential to be really good supervisors later on. So it's really shameful that one person can fuck up the lives of all the others and has not to face consequences. This is something that I don't get, that these kind of people don't have to face consequences. And I think we have to work on that. And have many ideas how we could do it. One is cutting the money for the lab. For instance, if you're doing shit with your people, well, you cannot do research anymore. Other things are, I don't know, on top of my mind is like making it public, you know, like pointing it out, or, you know. But then, of course, how will you communicate? In the academia setting, it's also problematic to talk to the university, because the university, we had this actually, so there are allegations right now in the chemistry department running. You heard, I think, of it. Sexual harassment, I guess. So also really something that is not okay, and it seems like that this guy doesn't have to fear any consequences, which in my view is like punching the poor victims into their face. And this is something I don't get. I'm someone who's like for justice and everything, and if I would be there, I would never work with that person. I would, you know, from a scientific point, I would cut him out. I would be like, you don't get any money, you have to leave your professorship, everything. But if you have power, it will not work.
I mean, maybe, as you suggested before, just having some corporate indicators wouldn't be the worst, in the sense that, I mean, right, good companies get good people to build good products because people tell other people that, it's good. You want to work here. It's good. You want to do this.
Yeah.
And most of our work is based on scientific and like publishing indices.
Yes.
Like how high impact is your work, how many people are referencing you, things like this, metrics of this sort. And maybe we would need something else that would
the human side is
that
missing.
would compensate for the human factor.
Yes. So
because you will have no lab without people.
Yeah, definitely.
There's such a huge turnover of students and postdocs, and they all converge somewhere if leadership is good.
Yes.
They also converge somewhere if leadership is bad.
Yeah.
But that's the dark side of science, oftentimes.
Yes.
And maybe some harsher human factor wouldn't be.
What would you think
idea.
of as a factor? So what would you think would be good as a measurement? Like you have a publication index, you would have a, output, like how many actually got through it, or I don't know, some comments?
I always look at what's happening with the people that walk out of a lab. Like how many of, like, I really like informing myself based on the alumni pages.
But not everyone has that, right?
That's true.
That's
and
a
not everyone
problem.
updates that.
Yeah.
But I think it shows you already, like, how many people really wanted to continue with this field or
true.
not.
Yeah.
So I think that's already a good indicator there that you
so
might find now.
everyone should have
Another good
alumni
indicator
page.
that I have used is, well, back in the day it was called Twitter. I'm not really a fan of this new X name, but whatever.
What?
Twitter is X now.
Twitter X, okay.
And the problem with it is that, I mean, the advantage of it is that I always found really cool updates on certain labs on Twitter, and I got to find out what's their tone of voice, or what's the group's message overall, or how are they having fun? Do they have any strong opinions about something? And I still use this as an indicator of how cool a lab is. Actually, this is how I evaluated and determined that the lab that I want to join here is cool, because they had like really cool Twitter posts. And another indicator, I don't know, I don't think it exists, but you know, if you want to move into a city, you oftentimes check out the happiness factor, which is determined. Like,
does it really?
Yeah, there's like
tells you something about it. So
yeah,
does it replicate really that, or do you say it's just like made up?
I think it's just an index, and like all the indices, it tells you something, not the full story. And
would be interesting. What's the index of Munich?
I think it ranks pretty high.
Yeah,
Munich is pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, good social security, good security overall, good healthcare.
Okay, yeah, true.
It's chill.
Yeah.
But I would make something like this, like a happiness factor. Because if you don't take into account the opinion of the people in the lab, you won't be able to judge.
Yeah.
And
I'm just
like
thinking
the life quality or the work quality. The life quality in a lab.
Yeah.
And yes, there will always be PhD students that complain that it's too hard and it sucks and the boss is mean.
What I realized,
but you will always, or you should always have a postdoc that backs you up.
Yeah.
Or
so
the balance should be.
The balance should be there.
Happen naturally.
Yes. So what I realized is there are some like you PhDs who are like eager to learn and be like quickly and want to independent. But oftentimes it will be really difficult. You're gonna question yourself a lot. And there's no, today people always say work-life balance. No, there's no work-life balance at that stage, I would say.
No, I think it's a huge imbalance. Because like, you could argue that at some point it balances out. Because, like when you work really hard, but you also have the flexibility to have loads of fun, and then just balance the two.
Yes.
So it's
good to have activities,
and you have to use this time.
Yes.
To build routines.
Yes.
And to shape yourself, but like it's your own problem. And no one tells you how to do this.
No.
So it's a completely personal process.
Yes.
That
and
only you can handle.
How resilient are you? So you're going to test
finding
yourself.
Finding out a way to go with it.
Yes.
And then it doesn't matter what you do afterwards. You can go for a postdoc and then you apply these kinds of things.
Yes.
You can switch and go to the industry and you apply the same kind of things. So I think work will be work wherever you go.
What for me is important.
You have to be disciplined about it.
Yes, that is the main thing, that you have to have discipline and eager to go through that. And if you face, because, I don't know, your PI is an asshole or the group is not fine for you, then you always have the strength to go. You know, like it's this I have to say to people. If you're not happy, then you have the right to go. It's not like that you have
Yes.
any obligations to stay. And this is sometimes misunderstood because they're like, oh, I'm not going to get another job or another PhD. I know if you started like you 2 years now and be like, oh, fuck, I don't want to do it. It will be a bit difficult, I guess, to start over again. So in my case, I had the opportunity to start over again in some other lab, but I was already 3.5 years into it. And then I would have lost again like 4 years. So I would have done a PhD again for like 7 years. And to be fair, if you apply somewhere and have in the CV 7 years of PhD, people gonna look at you and be like, what? You know, like that's not good. Rather having it short is the best. But usually you finish like with 4 to 4.5, 5 years, which for me is a bit too long. I would like to have it more concise, like 3 to 3.5 years, because later on you're anyway gonna build up your skills more and more. And you need to have a defined project, which is often not given. So in my case, I actually wanted to do something different, and I started with that and got crushed. So luckily I was working on a side project. So everyone also going through that phase is, I recommend you have a side project. It could really help you out in the end. So something that is related to the lab that you would say, okay, it's worth looking at it. Sometimes that's the project that actually helps you to finish your PhD. And for me, this is kind of, I would say, the most shittiest thing if a PI is not capable of giving guidance in the project. So he's like, I have this great idea about, I don't know, ribosomes doing weird stuff. And Leona, just do it for me. And you'll be like, yeah, well, what's the question? How should I know the question? And you are not at the stage where you could ask scientific questions in such a way that you can publish a paper later on, right?
Yeah.
So you just graduated from your master's.
Yeah, no, I think you must be a really brilliant PhD if you can do it.
If you can do it, yeah.
But it should not, I don't think it should scare you if you cannot yet. But you should practice.
You should practice, definitely.
You should try your best to come up with small questions.
Completely. So if you come up with something, oh, that was not addressed, maybe I look into it, that's completely fine. But many PIs put pressure on their people and be like, you have to figure it out. Same for me. Right now I'm a postdoc and still, what is your project? What do you want to do? Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, I'm not interested in it. And then it's kind of a difficult juggling around to know what you want to do and what would be good for the, overall lab, I would say. So I'm really in a happy place right now. So being supported by the lab is really like something that I was looking for after this horrible years that I had. But I realized that certain aspects I have to work on, or at least think of maybe doing it differently. So this is something that I'm also going through, and it seems to be that every postdoc is going through. So someone who is also in the scientific field and doing a postdoc right now, just started, let me know in the comments if you also have these kind of self-crisis, I would say, like mid-40 crisis. I'm not, so you get the idea. So, yeah, I don't know. And as I told you, I want to do more translational medicine stuff. I don't know how feasible that is, but I think as a researcher, you are allowed to shift, or at least you should shift to expand your horizon, actually. Because right now, also starting with the science education and communication, I'm reading whatever paper about, I don't know, news things of, microbiome or whatever. Of course, I'm not trained in that field, and someone who is maybe working in that field might be saying, oh my God, you don't know anything. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm reading about it. At least I can read from the literature what people are doing and then get excited and communicate that to the people. And if someone is out there and be like, hey, I want to talk about this, feel free to come up. I would love to have that conversation with you, with an expert in that field, right? And one thing that I learned over the time is always stay curious. That's why I also have it in my Instagram, that you always should stay curious and learn. I'm a biochemist, you're a biochemist. Maybe it looks for neuroscience different. I have no idea. Please comment below if it's true or not. Or if we missed something even, right? So it could be that we missed something.
Totally.
And I would love to hear your opinion. Should I continue?
But I would also be curious to see what the audience is thinking about this, and
if it was good enough for the people.
Are actually interested in following up and figuring out what's this thing about science and why do people do it. Because I don't know, one of the things that bothers me the most, for example, and like I'm just gonna ask you this question is, do your parents know what you're doing?
No.
And I swear this is you get the same reply from most of the people in science.
But if you would ask a medical professional, he would say the same.
Agree.
Right? So
agree.
We are doing a terrible job.
But
and I'm trying
not even the people closest to you know what you're doing. And I swear it also applies to friends.
Yes.
Like, if I have friends that are not in the field, if someone asks them, oh, what is she doing?
Her
PhD, I don't know.
Her PhD in biochemistry.
I would like people to know what this means and have some sort of idea.
Yes, and that's why I'm starting this podcast. So so all the people out there who don't have a background in science, please let me know in the comments if it's really helpful. So we doing
ask us questions.
Ask questions, yes.
Whatever you're
Leona
curious
will be
about.
there to ask.
Curious. Yes, we can
to have the ribosome questions.
Yes, we can organize an AMA session.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm very happy to.
Well, that would be awesome. You know, like Q&A.
Live chat, yes.
Live chat even. Oh my God. On YouTube or what?
Of course on YouTube. What do you think?
With 1 follower.
Yeah. I mean, let's wait until the
Let's wait. Yes, of course. We need to. So please subscribe. I want to know if this is something. I really had a lot of fun. To be honest, I was really a lot fear, anxiety, everything in me, because I'm a complete introvert. I hate exposing myself.
I am just the same.
You're the same. Okay. So that was accurate in Big Bang. That we
I agree. We are all introverts.
To a lesser extent, some are extroverts. I don't know how they do it, but
I haven't met that many. We touched a bit what's wrong in
science.
In science and in academia.
And
we came up with partial solutions to it.
Yes. Well, for us, these are solutions. Maybe other people will like that's complete. Nonsense.
Peer review it.
You never
Bring
know.
it on.
Bring it on. Tell me in the comments what you think. I hope we grow as a community. I really love the fact that I can do science communication and education. And please reach out whenever you have a question or you want to have some, information. I will put everything in the description. And thank you a lot, Leona, for coming.
Thank you for having me once again.
I hope that the audience that we have are mixed. So, of course, the non-scientific people, but also the scientific people and really medical people. So I really would like to have this great community and follow me for more science. I try because I'm full-on scientist. Of course, I don't have always the time and energy to post, but I try to do a lot of stories if something is interesting, medically or scientifically. I try to make posts also to educate you guys on the cool stuff and tell you what's new. that you will see in the new episode.
I thought you were giving us a quick preview. Or just a topic. Do you know the topic?
It will be about being a postdoc, and there's this postdoc appreciation week coming up, and I would like to have people who are postdocs and their experiences.
Awesome.
Yes.
So more about the secrets of the postdoc life.
Yes.
Up.
Yeah. So this is somehow what we're going to do next, and then let's see, it comes naturally by which topic I want to do. See you in the new episode. I hope you like it. Please leave a like, subscribe, all these kind of things, right?
Daily dose of honest science.